Jaspers, tell me about your music.
Cool. Yeah, guys, my name's Jasper. I go by the artist name Born Court. I'm based in the Sunshine Coast. I'm an Australian rapper, and I make all sorts of music in the alternative genres.
Mate, that is fantastic. How long have you been doing it?
Cool. So I've been writing music since I was about 13 years old. I started off originally writing Australian rap music, listening to artists such as 360, Seth Century, Bliss and SO, and Hilltop Hoods. I really found rap music to be a really great way to express yourself creatively, and I found that it was modern day poetry. You know, the ability to rhyme and tell stories, and just being able to express yourself and tell people your stories. It's a lot of fun to express yourself in a creative manner.
That's exactly what it is. It's modern day poetry. And look, I've been a rap fan for absolutely ages. And as you know, I'm your dad's age, which puts me at 50. And, but mate, even back in the day, like, you know, with the kind of earlier artists, I really loved it. And I had a lot of my friends going, what do you like it for? It's so repetitive, and some of the background music. And I go, well, look, you know, it's like all music genres and styles. You have some artists that are really good, some artists that are talented, some artists that aren't. You're always going to have that hierarchy.
Absolutely.
I said it's about street poetry. You're getting these people are street poets, and
absolutely,
that's the total appeal. That's the total appeal to me about it. But all right, so we just heard that, you know, that hook was one of your tunes. How do you get inspired?
What inspires me as an artist? So currently, I'm quite new to creating music. In the aspect of I've only really recently I've released my first piece of work quite recently. It was a project called A Letter to Summer, and it's a 3-track story. The long and short of it being, I channeled an experience that I had with a certain woman in my life throughout the duration that I was at university. And one of the great stories that is on it is the initial track, Dear Summer. It initially tells a story about how I met her, and without even breaking down the lyrical structure or even the flow or the rhyme scheme or anything like that, you just listen to the lyrics. Dear Summer, thanks for the opportunity to move into the new city. I like the change of scenery, the greenery. It seems to be a better place. I'm in a better space of mind. I find that I'm blessed to have these better days. Speaking of a conversation, I met a girl at the bus station. What was her name? What was her saying? Just first name basis. Wrote a couple songs while I'm wasted, showed her too early, embarrassed and couldn't face it. I contemplated heading home to throw in the towel. But this is all you wanted. How could you just up and leave now? Knew in my heart the decision was wrong, because I'm no longer attached to the environment that I'm from. Now I'm at the club with all the lights. It's just you and I. My hand's holding onto yours and yours is holding mine. You give me that look and I can see in your eyes. Whatever you do, please don't go back to the mines. Promise me. And that alone is the story. It's the story of how her and I met, and that experience, and that was the best way for me to express myself, was to write that through a song. I think that it's one of those things that you can, when you're listening to it, you can start to visualize it. It's almost like you're playing a movie in your head. You can, you know, boy meets girl, and and I think that was something that I really found a strong connection to. I wanted people to get caught in the music and experience it. And I know that a lot of people can relate to that. You know, I wanted people to say like, oh, I remember my summer. I remember being that age, and there was that girl, and I was in that place and time in my life. And when I wrote about it, I wanted it to be someone that, you know, it might not have been Summer. It could have been Jennifer. It could have been, you know, Brenda. It could have been anyone. But everyone remembers that time and that place in their life. And for me, that's what the project was all about. It was just telling a part of my story.
And that's so important with especially with the genre of rap and that style of music. You hear a lot of cool lyrics, stuff that's really But if there's no narrative, to it, narrative arc, it's still wonderful and still great, and you like listening to it, but it's not as compelling, and that's why I like your stuff.
Yes.
And because it does have that narrative arc as well. But are you self-taught? Is this something that you kind of just got an interest in and you decided this is what I want to do, or did you go into a course? Like, what happened?
So I guess initially for me, it was really, really humble beginnings. I was originally in primary school. I learned to play the guitar, and I learned, a handful of instruments at a very basic level. I was never a Mozart, but that being said, when I found rap music, I found a real connection to it. I felt that the second that I put, pen to paper, it was one of those things where I felt that I'd already written the next line before I'd made the first one. I just felt like I was writing stories, and although they might not, although in the beginning at age 13, the stories weren't that great, and the rhymes weren't that good. It was a bit Dr. Seuss. One fish, two fish, red fish, blue fish. It was very. I think it was very difficult at the time to elevate, but I felt that the longer, I started to find a couple of artists that I liked what they were doing, and I always found myself, I'd listen to this artist and I'd be looking for, where was their head at? What were they doing to make them think of that line? And then I started paying more notice into analyzing their lines and their flows and their rhyme schemes. And eventually you just start picking up little pieces of everything you listen to. But yeah, I was entirely self-taught, but it was throughout many, many years of constantly writing music. I always made an effort to each day after I did something, I'd be writing music, or I'd be thinking about writing lines throughout the day, or anything. I would constantly get inspiration from my environment. I could be doing something, I'd be at the grocery store, and then you think of something crazy comes out of nowhere, lightning strikes, and then you go, oh, when I get home, I've got to write something about this. Or it really is just a matter of always absorbing, being a sponge to everything that you hear. It doesn't explicitly have to be rap music you listen to. You can find something in all sorts of genres, particularly in any period of time. You might find that the line you were looking for was after listening to something in the 80s. It can really be from anything. Anything can channel. Particularly for me, a lot of movies. You could be watching a movie and you hear a line of dialogue. You absorb all of these art forms, and I think that some of the greatest lyrics about love, or stories about love that I've written, all came from watching 80s films. Watching these stories unfold on the screen, and you can go, okay, what was the one line you took from that movie? What was the one line you took from that song? What stood out to you? All of these things improve your writing, and for me, it was always a matter of trying to get a little bit better every day.
So you're one of those people that's clearly been touched by the muses, which honestly, I'm not being ironical, flippant, it's a rare thing.
Yes.
Is there something that you can do to get yourself in the right? I mean, clearly you're always receptive, so there's that degree of receptivity that you've cultivated. But is there something that you can do to get yourself in the mood to write? Like, can you sit yourself down and go, all right, Jasper, today I want this, I want you to write something. Can you do that? Like, is that the way it works for you? Or has it got to be that inspirational, I'm riding the wave kind of thing?
I think that the best thing that I can do possibly, whenever I'm asked to write something, or wherever a producer would send me a beat or anything like that, I have to listen to something. I have to have something playing, whether it's the instrumental that I'm going to be rapping on, whether it's another artist or something. I find that another thing for me, in the context of like drama and the arts, method acting. So for me, it's a matter of chucking my favorite t-shirt on, or getting into costume, chucking the stuff that I'd be wearing on stage. If I can chuck those things on, then I can switch into work mode. It's almost like throwing on a uniform for work. You know, once you get your gear on and get your kit on, you can start channeling. It's almost like a light switch. You know, suddenly, yep, it's time to work. It's time to put in that effort. You know, and I find that's when I put my best, is when I'm in character, so to speak, is when I'm writing my best work.
That makes total sense to me. But there's a real play there, Jasper, between, because of course people always associate creativity in the arts with this boundlessness and this idea, again, being touched by the muses, you know, the fairy comes and taps you on the head kind of stuff.
Yep.
But from what you've explained to me, it seems that there's actually a boundary there. So there's a degree of discipline, really. It's like, all right, I am going to create this structure. I'm going to do this. And then I'm going to fill the inside of the structure with what's going on in my head. So you need the discipline. Would it be fair to say, I suppose, that the discipline in some ways frees you? That's how that strikes me.
I think that it's the way that the role that music has played in my life has always been directly correlated with working. They've always been. There's never been one without the other. I've always constantly been, if I'm on a job site, or if I go into work in my 9 to 5 doing a day job, the radio's playing. You know, it's one of those things where it remains a part of it, but it's not the direct causation. But when it comes to creating my own art form, it's a matter of having to make the time and having to put the effort. It in itself is an additional workload, and that in itself, it requires the time to put into it and to channel that energy. So I think that by putting on your uniform and putting on that additional effort, it in itself enables you to go, okay, this is what my entire focus is on this. You know, we won't step away from the table until we have a song, or we won't finish up until we put a couple lines down. I absolutely put emphasis on it. You don't need to write 100 songs in a day. You know, you don't have to do these ridiculous things. And my advice often to other artists or people who want to get involved in the creation of music, I say, if you're balancing, I think that what the advice that I give to people who want to be involved in the arts, or that want to start creating music, is that a good day is when you put something on the paper.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be 100 songs or 16 bars or anything like that. If you can just do something each day, eventually it becomes an artwork.
Yeah.
You know, and particularly with my album, Rome wasn't built in a day. You know, it was the culmination of many years of hard work. So I think that, in particular, just being able to do something and to incorporate that into your lifestyle is fundamental.
You're forming a habit, basically.
Absolutely.
But a positive one. You know what I mean? Because when we hear habits, like, you know, we always think it's, you know, smoking or drinking or whatever it is. But that's
absolutely
behavior, a habit that's positive. Good people there. But look, that's really insightful. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. We know that you like love. That was obviously the theme of that last theme. But what other themes of music do you write?
I think that I'm quite motivated through my experiences in life, and I think that there's always a catch-22 to the things you do. You can't be happy without the sad, and you can't have love without the loss of love. Yeah. So I think that I really like to play with opposites and things that are adjacent. I often write my best music when I'm feeling a bit down, when I can channel those energies. I like to make negative things into positive things. If you can express yourself throughout, if you can find something to write about, even though you might be feeling a little bit low, you know, like I say, if you're feeling down on your luck, but the pain is temporary. You know, these sad times don't last forever. There was a track that I wrote in particular. It was one of my latest releases. It was called "See the Sun." And I wrote, and the way that this song sort of panned out was, there was a day It could have been a Wednesday, it could have been any time, but on this morning in particular, I was feeling a little bit low. But I rolled out of bed and I went out I made myself a cup of coffee. I walked out on my deck and I saw one of the most beautiful sunrises I'd ever seen in my entire life. I looked out and it was just, it was a cloudless day, but the most orange, most awe-striking. It was one of those things that I just looked at and I felt at peace and complete contentness in the universe. It was all the stars in alignment sort of thing. And I sat there and I just went, you know what? Things might not be great, but I was so happy just to see the sun today. Like I immediately jumped on and I started writing. I just wrote this song out of nothing, out of thin air. This thing just hits me. And it was all about being down on your luck. But that feeling that I got from seeing the sun, I wanted to share that with someone who was down on their luck. So the whole the whole first half of the song is me talking about, things are bad, things aren't going too well. I know that you're going through hard times, but that feeling the feeling I got when I saw the sun, I want you to have that too. I want both of us to be able to see that sun. I'm doing this for you. And it was about and a lot of metaphors, like the cloudy days begin to fade away, the silver lining in a shade of gray. It feels like a whole new life has started when I've got clear skies out of my apartment. I'm wishing I could share the view. The sun shines bright against the sea of blue. And every time I see that, I think of you. Go on and go again. Just keep on going. You'll never be known. If you quit right now, then you'll end up in the ground. I want you to never, ever back down. I know you can do this, and I know you've been through it. You're not the only one, and together we can see the sun. Oh, look, but it's one of those things. I really wholeheartedly had that cathartic moment, and I felt that this song could move a mountain, and not every day is good, but I think it's human to have the two sides of the same coin, You can't have the sun without the clouds. It's perfectly balanced. It's perfectly balanced. So that's a bit about my creative process. That's just sort of how my brain works when it comes to writing a track.
Mate, that's again that's kind of really insightful there. So besides the narrative part of it too, we've got the idea of sharing, which is, that shared emotion, which is what's really going to resonate with people. That's kind of cool. What's the best gig you've done?
So I've actually only done one gig in my I guess history of the Alias Born Court, but it's actually quite an interesting story how it panned out. So I was working as a I was working at a surfboard manufacturer's, and so I used to start early and finish relatively early, and a lot of people would go for a paddle out. But what I did was one night I was just scrolling through Facebook as all of us do before we go to bed. I was scrolling through Facebook and I saw an advertisement, and it said Hip Hop Haven, and it discussed this event that was being held in Noosa at a venue called Z Pickle, which is this restaurant on one of the main streets in Noosa. And I recognized the name was this bloke named Potsy, or Corey Potts. He's a rapper that's based up in Noosa. And I went, I know that guy, and he's running an event up in Noosa for an open mic night for rappers in the Sunshine Coast, representing the Sunshine Coast. And it's calling all MCs, calling up all hip hop fans. And I saw it and it said tomorrow night. Oh, there's a Thursday and it's on a Friday night. And I went, oh, that's it's like almost like a sign up. I've got to go up there and at least just see what's going on. So I finish work for the day. I jump in the car, chuck on my jacket, jump up the road, and I'm driving up there, and I pull up, and I'm one of the first people there. I'm there before even the venue staff are there, and I'm just sort of sitting there, having a few quiet ones, just trying to relax, get the nerves before I go and speak to some of the boys there. and I walk, and in comes Potsy and the rest of his crew, and I go in there and I go, yeah, g'day fellas, uh, my name's Jasper. I'm starting to make a bit of music. I was wondering if there's any openings tonight. I'd love to be involved. And Potsy says to me, yeah, mate, are you one of the people that sent me a message a month ago to register? And I went, oh, get out of town. There's been, everyone's already thrown in, they've already locked it in. And I'm going, mate, I've only just heard about this. I saw the advertisement last night. I was spewing. And I go, oh, look, mate, I only found out about this last night. But I tell you, and he goes, and I was like, oh, look, if anyone, pulls out or anything like that, just think of me as a first in line. I'd love to have the opportunity. And he goes, yeah, mate, no dramas. Lovely to meet you. So, spend the rest of the night just talking. I go, look, no, not fast. Just happy to see some local talent. That's all goods. So, event starts and they go, all right, before we begin, let's get all the rappers to the front and we'll all have a chat about tonight. And there's 3 people haven't shown up out of the 10-person lineup. And I'm there going, hang on here. I've got a USB drive in my pocket with some songs on there. And I'm going, oh, is this an opportunity for me? I go, Pots, mate, I'm ready to go if you need me. And he goes, all right, mate, you're going second. And then, of course, I was like, oh, dang, like, oh, I didn't think I was going to be, I was ready, but I didn't think I was ready, so, but then I was like, oh, hang on, now I've got to get into character, got to get things going. And, the first bloke jumps up and he was in this, his first set and he starts going and, yeah, can we get Born Court to the stage? And I, down my spine, I'm there, just went, freezing, with pale as a ghost. And I had to have that moment. I was like, okay, this is something that you've wanted. This is something you've worked on, and you haven't showed anybody your music before. This is before I've ever released a track. This is just when I started writing music in the Sunshine Coast. So I go, yeah, g'day guys. My name's Born Court. You guys are gonna hear some unreleased music. I've got a project coming out in the near future. If you like what you hear, you can check that out later down the track. And I get up there and I perform these songs, and I'm there just channeling this energy. I'm in the zone, and I'm telling my stories. I did my Dear Summer, I did my Heart of Stone, I did my Sincerely Yours. I just did the couple of songs off of the project, and to my surprise, I was getting applause because I was there going, I wasn't sure what the reception was going to be. I didn't know if, I don't have the best stage presence. I'm already nervous, but I was telling these stories to a group of people who were just like me, who could hear the lyrical rhyme scheme, who could pick up on the flow, who could realize, what I was doing. And all of a sudden that I was getting appreciation from my tribe, the people who can see things the way that I do, and hear, when I'm telling a funny line, you can hear someone laugh because they've already worked out the punchline, one step ahead. And I felt that after I'd received that, applause and that appreciation, it was, I was like, okay, so this is it, this is what it's like. And I felt immediately connected to the art form.
Wow.
It wasn't just Jasper jumping on stage. I was presenting to these people. I was telling that story, and I immediately finished my act to applause, and a bunch of people coming up to me going, dude, you killed it, dude. That was such, great show. You put it on. And from that, I developed a relationship across, like, 5, 6, 7 artists across the coast. And all of these people who are now in my inner circle, who I can go to an event and they go, oh, Bourne's here. And I go, oh, g'day, Coops, how you going? And I think that for me, after I did that gig, I developed that, not so much a name for myself, but as a recognized person in the community. So I'd be driving to gigs in the Gold Coast. I'd be driving to when I say gigs, driving to my friends' performances in the Gold Coast and in Brisbane, up to Noosa and so on and so forth. But I'd be seeing the people that I was with at that gig up in Noosa. So like it was that real sense of community that I got from that gig, and I found it to be incredibly rewarding just by having the chance to get on stage and give it a go. Enabled me to make countless friendships and not only push my music out there, but just be able to connect with other artists in my community.
Well, and all that stems from fundamentally what that's about, though, Jasper, is vulnerability. So, you know, you get up there and you expose yourself, and it's a bit of a area. It's like, I don't know where this is going to go. I don't know what's going on with that. You're kind of like, it's naked on stage. I mean, not
absolutely.
You know, you got clothes on, but you know what I mean. You're naked on stage up there, dude. You got no clothes on.
And I think that for me, that like I think that once you get past the headspace, you know, like if you went up on stage and you know you got no round of applause, you know, I think that's like that insecurity that lives in the back of your head where you go like, oh, like what if I fail? Like, you know, what if this goes downhill fast? Like, you know, I think that it's one of those things that it's not a matter about confidence or resilience. I think it's just if you can put your energy and show people that you're passionate about something, and I think if you wholeheartedly, you don't need to exude confidence or arrogance, you know, for that matter. But if you can express yourself that you know, I believe in this, and I think that this is something, you know, like this is a story. I think I want to share this. I think that this is something important. And when you're talking about something that's important to you, people naturally attract themselves to it. They go, hang on, this guy's got something to say, and you know, like let's listen to what he's got to say. What's this guy got to say?
Yeah, enthusiasm is infectious for sure.
Absolutely.
You know, if you've got the legitimate, and it's coming from your jammed heart, like you're not making it up. But that's linked to vulnerability. Boom, this is who I am. Like, this is what I think. This is what I felt when I saw that sunrise. This is what it's like holding the girl's hand, you know, on that. This is what it's, yeah, dude.
It's completely authentic, you know, and I think that authenticity, particularly now more so than ever, in a generation that was raised by, you know, the color of my Lamborghini, you know, the $100,000 chain. I think that particularly in communities, you know, you don't need to express that. You can go to your 9 to 5 and still kill a show, you know, and particularly that's the energy that I bring into this. Like I still have a day job, and if I can I'd still happily be a labourer doing my 9 to 5 and a show on a Friday night. You know, for me, just being a part of the community, you know, my goal's already been reached. I don't need the name in lights. I think that the thing that the part of music that really that motivates me and gives me fulfillment in my life is just by being able to exist in a community that recognizes me and respects me for what I do. By being able to go to a hip hop night run by a local artist, or by going to a gig of a friend of mine and they go, oh, dude, it's so sick that you came. You know, before I made music, or before I was involved in that scene, I was just another face in the crowd. But by being a part of it and being involved in it, there's a real respect towards your peers, and or, you know, your colleagues, your friends. You know, they could even be your rivals, but there's always a level of respect there. You know, there's always a level of respect, because at the end of the day, we're all doing the same thing. We've all got the same motivation. We're all making art. So all of us want to be able to motivate each other to be the best artists that we can be.
Absolutely. It's a recognition of talent. And Look, it's like a football game. I mean, we say your opponent's on a football game, and that's kind of true, but you're all the same game. You're playing by the same.
That's right.
You're trying to achieve the same end.
Absolutely.
So it's precisely that. But that's a perfect segue into, okay, so we've found out about your music. We found out about your creative process, and that's given us some insight into your character. But tell us about you. Who is Jasper Zoot McLaughlin? What's your job? Tell us about how you got your name, which I think is so cool. And
okay, yep.
Just roll into all those things.
I've had countless jobs. When I was a young bloke, I was crushing cardboard for the local rec club, you know, when they were doing their carton runs in, you know, and I got paid in a $5 note, a can of soft drink and a bag of chips, you know. So when I was 16 odd, you know, I was stacking shelves. When I was 17, I was a waiter at a local cafe. And then immediately after high school, I went into the mining industry. I worked in 6 different roles across my 1-year contract. Once I finished up at the mines, I went and studied to become a teacher at the Sunshine Coast. And I then returned back to Mount Isa Mines, did a 3-month contract there. After that, I started doing, I was a labourer at an abattoir. I did that for a year and 3 months. After that, I was working at a surfboard manufacturing plant, and most recently now, I was working at a food production for bacon. I was a machinery operator dicing bacon. So out of all of those careers, I found that music was the one that I enjoyed the most. So that's why I put majority of my effort into that. But I think that by having that constant routine of working, and it still enabled me to make music and the financially support me to buy my equipment and invest in what my passion is and what I want to do full time. So you know, you can still have your works and your passion, you know, at the same time. And even though some days are hard, you know, on your 9 to 5 or on your day job, at the end of the day, it funds your priorities and what you want out of life. So for me, work and music went hand in hand.
And Mount Isa, you got to tell
yes.
Mount Isa, bro. How long were you at?
So growing up in Mount Isa, it's a completely different environment compared to the Sunshine Coast. It's a small town, small mining town. I grew up there from about, I might have been maybe 10 years old when I moved out there, and I left there when I was about 20. So I spent maybe 10 to 12 years out in Mount Isa, and I grew up there. It was home. You know, I started school there, had my first job there and whatnot, and I spent my time in the pits. I spent my time underground in the mines. So I enjoyed it for what it was, but I found that particularly with my aspirations in music, I've had to find a way to come closer to opportunity. And for me, that was here at the Sunshine Coast.
Of course. Yep. And mate, for the listeners that don't know, I'm very well acquainted with Jasper's dad, Chris. He's a policeman, and he was in my squad. We were squad mates, best mates of the squad. So tell me about your middle name, and has that influenced you getting into music? Because it's so cool and so ironic.
Okay, so a little story about me. My name's Jasper Zoot McLaughlin, and a lot of people look at the name Zoot and they go, "Oh, what does that mean? Is that a family name, or how did you pick that up?" And anyway, the long and short of the story was when I was born at Mount Isa, my father had a habit of he wanted to name the children after a night out on the plonk. He would chuck on the TV, and the first thing that he saw when the television turned on was meant to be was what the child was meant to be. So whatever came on the TV, the first thing that he chucked on in the middle of the night, you know, he'd turn on the TV, and the first thing that pop up was going to be my name. So lo and behold, it was the end of the Muppet Show, and as the credits are rolling for the Muppet Show, you know, is a character Zoot, a Muppet called Zoot, and he does that. And my brother is named Zeke, and my mother says to me, "You can't that's the character there." Yeah, so that's essentially who I was named after. But my brother's name's my brother's name's Zeke. My brother's name's Zeke, and my mum goes, "We can't have a Zeke and a Zoot." So lo and behold, my old man goes, "All right, well, it has to be a part of him somehow," and that's how I got my middle name, Zoot. And that has haunted me, or maybe it's blessed me throughout my life because I've got a great story to tell people.
It's a blessing, bro, and it does. Like, you're a musician. No, I'm not being ironic.
Yeah.
Like, I am not kidding. Like,
Yes.
it's funny. So, I mean, there is that sense of irony there.
Yes, absolutely.
I'm not taking the mickey. That's influenced you. I reckon, you know, there's something very Jungian going on there.
Yes. but by its nature is how I obtained the name. And but that being said, there's a lot of Zoots out there. You know, there was the band called Zoot. There was the Zoot suit that you can wear, the Zoot suit riots, you know, that sort of thing. But yeah, so that's how the name came to fruition. And one of the earlier names that I was going to be when I started writing music was Jasper Z or Jasper Zoot. So that was something that I've rolled around with for years. So
yeah. A drunk Chris McLaughlin changes the world. There we go.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. One man, a couple of beers and a TV remote later.
A couple.
A handful, maybe.
Yeah. All right. So if you could steal or claim any song, not one of yours, which one would it be?
But I think that if I could have any claim, I'd say Bohemian Rhapsody is one of the greatest songs of all time. And I find that in this generation of music, I don't think that based on the amount of media that we have there and the amount of music and social medias, I don't think that there will ever be a song that will stop or change the world or be as impactful as Bohemian Rhapsody. I think that we might have songs that could be equal to, but it will never have the influence. It will never touch the masses or impact in people's lives based on that. Like we have our algorithms that'll only expose us to certain types of music or certain things that interest us, but there will never be an international stop the world song again. So I find that for me, even though I don't need that, I think that it's incredibly important to think of our old artists, like I suppose our artists that were big in the 70s and 80s and so on and so forth. Like, let's talk about our Sinatras, our Princes, you can talk about Michael Jackson. All of these massive artists was because the exposure or the way that we received our music was a completely different method than what we do now. We because of the internet, we could talk about that.
Okay.
I think that like if you could talk about I think it's hard to say. I think it's hard to break down what the greatest song of all time is, or one of the most well-written songs of all time. But I know for me, with all of those artists in mind, there's one song for me that stands above all in creative writing. Where would your head at? What were you thinking? What was going on in your life when you wrote it? But there's actually, I've got my answer for you here. It's New Radicals, Someday We'll Know. I think that is truly, I think that is one of the most amazing lyrically. I think it's one of the most amazing songs. I think that it in all those aspects that I relate to as an artist, of telling a story, connecting an experience that other people will understand. Like if I can go on a little bit of a tangent, if breaking down the lyrics, 99 miles out of Chicago, I can't stop driving. I don't know why. So many questions, I need an answer. 2 years later, and you're still on my mind. Whatever happened to Amelia Earhart? who holds the stars up in the sky? You know, if I could ask God one question, you know, it wouldn't be any of these wonders. It would be, why aren't you here with me? You know, I think that it's one of those things of that feeling of love, or that feeling of absence of a person in your life. Um, it's, you know, someday we'll know if love can move a mountain. Someday we'll know why the sky is blue. Someday we'll know why I wasn't meant for you.
Hmm.
You know, it's the polarity by being able to talk about these topics. Yeah, like someday we'll know about this, surely,
Hmm.
but I hope that one day I'll know why you know you aren't here with me. You know, it's it's I think that it's one of the most beautiful and well written songs. And I always say, if I had an opportunity to sit in a room and say, you know, like, just give me, you know, just what was on your mind, like where was your head at, like what made you write this song? If I could have that conversation with someone, like with the lead singer of New Radicals, it would be everything. For me, I think that that is one of the most well-written songs, and particularly from a band that most people would write off as a one-hit wonder,
Hmm.
or a band that never made it. Because they had the other single that they had that was quite popular was "You Only Get What You Give."
Yeah.
You know, yeah. So a lot of people would usually would write off the band as, you know, oh, they had a couple of good songs. But for me, as a lyrical artist, as a person who likes to tell stories, that song is a standalone. That is, I think that's an S plus. You know, in a
Hmm.
rating, I think it's one of the best that I like to analyze, and I would recommend, as a person who wants to learn more about music and telling stories, pull up the lyrics and just have a read, and just sort of like let your heart, you know, listen with your heart, and, you know, listen with your look at it, and listen to it, and see what emotions you can draw out just by telling your story, you know.